All right. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time you're listening or watching this. I have a new guest today. The guy with me today is a man named Justin Smith. He is a friend of my brother's who has become my friend. I had the honor of meeting him at a place called The Garage. We were watching another friend of ours play in a band. And Justin and I had a great conversation, and I asked him if he'd be willing to come and speak to us about what he's doing now. Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us some background.
Yeah, Steve, thank you for the opportunity. So I'm Justin Smith. I'm a financial educator. Prior to that, almost 30 years, I was in healthcare technology management. So that was the bulk of my life. I mean, I'm only 35 now, Steve. So I started when I was, 5 years old or something.
That's right.
But I did that for a number of years. Recently, I decided to retire from that industry and just do full time in the financial education space. And when I say education, it really is about educating people and also helping them put things in place if they wants to have more the ability to have more informed decision making.
Hmm.
Aside from that, I'm a husband with a family of four. I am also the current chair of the American Lung Association here in Central Florida. And one little last tidbit, I also do some stuff with another organization to provide cessation classes for people trying to stop smoking and vaping. So that's a little bit
Man,
about me.
that's fantastic. I didn't know about that. We'll have to. You probably did tell me we spoke so much that first
Yeah,
night.
yeah, no
Um,
worries.
but yeah, we'll have to talk about that at another time. That's for sure. And I spent years trying to stop smoking, and finally, I've stopped counting. It's been a long time now, but we're here to talk about that financial education aspect to you. It's funny because just last night I was talking to one of my daughter's friends, and
Hmm.
we were talking about investing. Right?
Okay.
She is at the age of 18, right? And
Okay.
she's beginning to work for herself. Or work, I should say, and going to school, and in that phase of her life. And I have my daughter already investing. We started when she started working at
Okay.
15 years old.
Nice.
Yeah, so hopefully she's better off than I am when she gets to my age, right? But her friend wanted to learn more, so I was kind of giving her a little crash course. I know just enough to be dangerous to myself and others, right? So I'd
Like
like
you
to
know a little bit more than to be dangerous, Steve. Just be. I think a little bit more than
a
that.
little bit, a little bit. But I think it's so important. I think one of the things that we fail to do in our education system now is to really learn what are we doing with money? What is money? How do we make sure that we're protecting ourselves in the future? And that's what I talk to my daughter's friends about. I tell them, you're thinking about future you, right? So I
Mhm.
have to take care of future Steven, you have to take care of future Justin, and all of the people we're responsible for as well, right?
Right.
So what are some of the things in just broad strokes? What are some of the topics you're most excited to share with us today?
You know, really, that is no bad time to start. Meaning that if you didn't start when you were, 18, like you're talking to your daughter and her friends, or even younger, that's okay. Just having self-awareness that now is the time to start. You can't get caught up on the years before that you didn't do it because you can't get those years back. Second to that, I would say finding a trusted financial professional that's going to actually have a conversation with you, not just try to put you in a product, but tell you what's the mechanics of that product. Like, why should I do this? Why is it important for this version of me today to set the version of me in the future to be successful? Is the two things I usually try to put across right off the bat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It reminds me of the the old story or the old quote that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Right? The second best time is today."
Right.
Right? So
Absolutely.
people are in the position where, okay, 20 years ago you didn't start. Maybe you're like me. You're in your mid 40s, and you didn't start when you were 20 years old. And so now here you are today in your mid 40s. What can I do? Right?
Hmm.
So what's the first thing? Like let's say there is somebody in that scenario where they haven't done anything yet. Right? They're at the point, maybe they're in their late 20s, hopefully,
Hmm.
right? Or in their 30s, in their 40s, like what would be some of the first things you'd recommend for them to learn about or to think about?
Usually, when I meet people, one of the first things that I do once we get to that point of having that level of conversation is asking, do you even know what resources that you have available to you? Because a lot of us, we think first, well, oh, we have a 401k through our work, or I got a savings account, I got a checking account. But do you understand how those things can either help you, build money for the future, or that if you don't utilize them the correct way, they could grow, but maybe not grow as effectively as they could. So it's really about sitting down, understanding their current state. What is their financial outlook? What are their debts? What is their income? Having a real adult conversation to have upfront awareness. Because if you don't know where you currently are, then you're not going to necessarily be able to create a roadmap to get to where you believe you want to get to. And
Right.
those are the first things that I always do. Let's find out your current state.
Okay. So you figure out, okay, this is where I am. I have maybe I'm in a good position. I have very little debt, right? That's
Hmm.
one thing that my parents instilled in me, perhaps, right? And then we figure, okay, this is how much income I'm earning, and I'm saving, right? I have a good
Hmm.
savings, right? I've learned, okay, I can build up my savings, and maybe part of the fear that stops people, and this is just from my own conversations with people.
Hmm.
Well, if I take my money and I put it under my mattress, so to speak, or into a savings account, which earns just about as much as the mattress, right?
Right.
If I put it in my savings account, when I go back to the savings account later, it's still going to be there, right? I'm protected up to a certain amount. Most people know, right? You hear about the FDIC
Hmm.
insurance and the NCUA, right? The things that protect you up to a certain dollar amount, which most people don't save more than that anyway.
Right.
And then you look at something like the market, right?
Hmm.
So I have the market pulled up right now. Okay. I'm looking at what happened overnight on the S&P, on the
Right.
Nasdaq, and on the Dow.
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody if last night it tanked, right? That tends to be a safe bet right now if you're a gambling man. So if I have my money in the market right now, well, don't I lose my money when things like that happen? Like, how do you help people understand what their fear is telling them versus what the reality can be on the other side? Talk to me.
And that can be tough. I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster when you're looking
Yeah.
at the market, right? I mean, one minute you're riding really high, and that curve is leveling out and looking good. You might have a tiny little dip, and then one day you wake up and it's like what you're saying. It's like choop,
Hmm.
straight down off the cliff. What I try to always let my clients know is that this is a long term game, right? This is not a, hey, let me put it in there and take it right back out. And it's going to be fluctuations. You have to prepare yourself emotionally that, hey, I didn't put this in here for 1 year and I'm gonna try to get everything I get out. When we're talking about long-term strategies, right? We want to make sure that you understand that this is a tool, one of your financial tools, right? As far as like a retirement account, there's a bunch of different tools out there. What is your long-term goal? If your long-term goal is to have enough money when you retire and have enough retirement income that you won't outlive your money, then this market stumbling is an opportunity.
Hmm.
Let's break down what those opportunities are. Is it that now that the money that you're contributing on a consistent basis, that's every pay period, every once a month, whatever it looks like, does it give me opportunity to buy more of the things that I was already buying?
Right.
You're right. Understanding what's in the economy or social political things are causing this. And is that something that you just think that it's not going to go back up? So did we make the right investments in the first place?
Hmm.
Let's make sure that we're looking at these long-term companies that have real strong portfolios as far as what their financial outcomes look like. The things that they're investing is something that's uh, not necessarily just a niche type of thing. It also has a long-term lifespan on it as well. Typically, when I get those clients and they see that and they get a little bit, worried, I'm going through, well, let's review what we put in place and why we put it in place. So sometimes it's really about reminding them of the strategy that we put into place to prepare us for these particular times. And usually when they get that, they're like, okay. So a little bit lower here, but I'm still safe over here. I'm doing okay. And if you get the strategy set up right, I mean, you can see it, over time.
Yeah, I talked to in that conversation last night that I
Hmm.
referenced. What I was trying to help her understand is kind of what you're talking about there. Is that this is money that you're not just going to grab out and buy a car with, right? I'm not going to use it to put money down on a house, right? And the way that I like to think about it is, and I don't know if it's the way that everybody should or would, but the
Hmm.
way that I like to think about it is I create a fund, right? So if I have the goal of going on a vacation, right, I
Hmm.
have to create a fund for that. And the idea is, okay, I create a bucket and I
Hmm.
put money into that bucket until I can pay for what I'm looking to pay for. Same thing with um, a car, right? Same thing with and with a house, right? I'm going to put money into a bucket until I decide to take the money out of that bucket. That money is not the money that I'm putting into the market, right? That money is money going into a separate fund.
Hmm.
Money going into the market is not for Steven anymore. It's for future Steven, right?
Hmm.
That guy's going to appreciate me,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned portfolio,
Hmm.
right? And companies having portfolios. And I think one of the hardest things based on the conversations I've had with people is to understand some of the language around money, right? Because
Hmm.
when I think of portfolio, I think of a trapper keeper from high school, right? I remember seeing the word folio on
The
folders,
trapper
right? And
keepers.
thinking, what is a portfolio? What are we talking about when we say you need to have a diversify? We'll get to diverse, right? But
Yeah.
what is a portfolio?
I think in the simplest way you kind of put it is really just a bucket of investments that through due diligence you find that they have attributes that allow you to see growth and they have a value, right? For instance, when you go into a store, you go into a store, you see the potato chips in one place, you see the snacks and stuff in one place, you see the health and beauty things in the different aisle. Well, it's kind of how your portfolio is, right? You have things set up in different type of investments that some may be a little bit more risky than others, right? Like the snack
Mhm.
section in in the store. it's,
That's a
that's the,
great analogy. Yeah.
that's the risky section, right? We like to believe that the health and the fruits and produce section is more of your kind of stable, steady, going to feed you and give you the nutrition. But you want to play a little bit, so you go grab you some, oatmeal pies or something, or whatever that is for you over there. So that's the way that I see a portfolio. I see a portfolio as a amalgamation of those type of things that allow me to, one, see growth in the spaces that I want to invest in, and then secondly, give me opportunity to have some risk because all risk is not bad,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Risk has a place because you have risk. You sometimes have a large reward, but you do want to kind of keep your baseline as best you can so that you can see continual growth. And when these dips happen, you didn't have everything in the risky investment. So if you're fully invested in all of the snacks, your health usually reflects that in some kind of way. So it's the same way with your portfolio. Stack it up with the fruits and vegetables and things like that that can actually bring you a healthy disposition. And in moderation, you have those other maybe risky type things. I don't know if that was a pretty good
Yeah.
explanation of portfolio.
I actually really like that analogy that you used, the using the idea of the store, right? I was
Yeah.
trying to explain market sectors
Mm.
last night, and I was explaining, okay, listen, it's it's really easy to think about if you just realize that technology is a sector, right? You have your technology sector, you have your real estate, you have health and beauty, consumer cyclicals,
Hmm.
pharmaceuticals, right? You
Yep.
have all sorts of different sectors, which
Hmm.
going with your analogy would be the sections of the the supermarket or the
Right.
aisles of the supermarket. I like that a lot. That's a way to make it make sense, and I'm going to steal that from you and use that
Absolutely.
in
Anytime.
conversation
Anytime.
with people. Yeah, and so all right, so portfolio is basically a collection of a bunch of different sectors of the market, or as you put it, different aisles in the grocery store. So,
Hmm.
what does it mean to have a diversified portfolio?
Well, in my opinion, a diversified portfolio is that portfolio where you're going to see those things where you might not have large amount of gain in those particular investments, but they stay fairly consistent. Maybe you see a 6 or 7% gain annually, but your losses were very minimized across the year. If you have a portfolio that is maybe more all in tech, everything is tech, 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 tech. Well, you're going to see pretty significant gains at different points, but you're going to see pretty significant losses. So ideally, we want to have our friends and families and clients have a portion of that sector, but
Hmm.
also have a portion that is, well, we'll say steady Eddie, more consistent, more in things that you know what they're everyday things people have to buy. Like you need these staple type of things. So I like to see some myself. If I looked at my own portfolio now, of course I got some tech in there. Of course I got some oil and energy things. But I also have some things in the food and other industrial areas as well too. And some people, this is not a promotion at all. Some people like Bitcoin.
Right. And
That's
cryptocurrencies, of
that's a
course.
whole nother type of sector, right?
Right.
But make sure you understand what it is that you're doing and layer your portfolio to have that diversification that can have you to have some type of growth and minimize the loss.
Hmm.
That's really what it means to me. And when I talk to my different clients and friends and family.
Yeah, I like that. As simple as you can. I think it was actually Einstein, right? Was it Einstein who said you want to simplify a thing as simple as you can, but no simpler?
I think it was. I think you were
I believe
correct.
it was, right? And I think that's a simple way of thinking about it, right? And
Hmm.
obviously, if we had some world class economist on here they could make it much more complicated than that, right? But I don't think that's the name of the game. Not for most of us.
Yeah.
Most of us, we're just trying to go to work, make a good enough living to take care of our family, to enjoy some of our leisure time, to, have a family vacation here and there, to go out to dinner and cook dinners and afford our bills and all of that
Hmm.
fun stuff. I don't think most of us are going to make it to the billionaire status.
Steve, it's something that you're saying there. So one of the other things I like to tell people is that, the mission I'm on is really to erase financial illiteracy, right? It really is the biggest thing that most of us have or continue to suffer through.
Yes.
I also like to tell them that everybody is not going to necessarily be a millionaire or a billionaire to your point,
Right.
but it's about positioning yourself to have freedom of choice. I know a lot of people say financial freedom, and that is true. I always say freedom of choice. When you're able to sit down with people that have some insight into the financial industry that can help you have that income that's residual
Mhm.
building, that income that you can have in retirement, you have a different level of choice. Even if you're working a regular W-2 job, if your
Mhm.
finances are in place, you tend to move a little different.
Yeah.
Not that you're not going to do the work that you're assigned to do, but you don't find you're not in a scarcity mindset and you're
Right.
not in a place of fear,
Right.
right? Well, how am I going to pay the lights this month if I don't have this check coming in? And if we can get people to understand that having the freedom of choice of how you want to live your life and be present within your family life and present in your own life, right? I
Hmm.
can tell you, I was a time where I felt a little bit like like I was a robot. I was just kind of moving through the things.
Right.
That's
Right.
some of the programming and people say that we had coming up. We go to school, we get a good paying job, we work 40 plus hours a week, and that's how we're going to have wealth. That's how we're going to take care of our family. And that plays a part. It does. But if I'm spending everything that I'm earning, not saying not to enjoy life because you should, and that's a misconception too. Like you gotta take some vacations. You gotta
Yeah.
do some things that you want to do. But you also need to understand, what life do you want to have when you're 50, 60, 70 years old? Do you want to still have to work because you didn't make a few shifts 10, 20 years earlier or even earlier?
Hmm.
That's one of my things I always try to get people to see.
Yeah, I like that. It's part of my objective with helping my daughter learn investing early was, and I've explained it to her this way, is when you're my age, I want you to work because you want to. I want you to work because you love it. I want you to
Right.
work because you found an industry where you're helping people and you feel like it really fulfills you,
Mm-hmm.
not because you have to. So,
A-
one,
absolutely.
yeah, one of my favorite books is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Robert
Robert
Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, and when my daughter was young, when she was, I think she was like 12 or 13, I gave her Rich Dad Poor Dad for teens, and I had her read that. And it's funny because that book reminds me of my own grandparents, right?
Ah.
And this is not a slight on either side, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
had one set of grandparents who, my grandfather was a teacher and a high school coach, and always paid himself first, right? Meaning he always put money aside. You know, when it
Mm-hmm.
was $12, it was $12, and then as his checks grew, so did what he was putting in.
Right.
I had another grandfather who, you know, he did what he had to do to take care of his family. Both of them had multiple children, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad's one of five, my mom's one of six, right? So there's
Big
decent
family.
size, you know. Yeah, yeah. Back
Yeah.
then that was
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yes.
Nowadays we're like, wow, it's a huge family, right?
Right.
But both of my grandparents worked hard, but one put away for the future, and the other worked. He worked pretty much until the day he died.
Hmm.
And my other grandfather, the one who put away as a teacher, they retired millionaires, right? And they had the freedom to enjoy their later years, right? He just
Mm-hmm.
passed away last year,
Okay.
and my grandmother's she's set up. She's not gonna, you know, she's not flying first class or you know, staying at Trump Tower, right? But
Right, right.
is, she is living a nice simple life and enjoying it and not worrying, not having to worry,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why part of the reason why I wanted you on here, because I see so many people who struggle with financial literacy, who don't understand, you know, how to take care of themselves for the future, and they don't read books like Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I love Robert Kiyosaki,
Mm-hmm.
and I also love the other Financial Peace University. I have it sitting right
Mm-hmm. Oh, Dave Ramsey.
here. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Dave Ramsey. Right. I think what Dave Ramsey is doing out there is a fantastic thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to put Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki in the same room, they would disagree on most things.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes, they
They're two
would.
people who do something with money that's very different. So there's so much information out there, and it's hard for
Mm-hmm.
people to know, where do I look? Like,
Right.
how do I get good information?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on here. So, with that being said, my question
Mm-hmm.
for you in that vein is, all right, so let's say I'm finally getting a handle on this financial literacy thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Meaning I'm looking around for information.
Right.
If I'm earning my check, how much should I be putting into my savings? How much should be going into investments? And how much should I be spending, you know, enjoying my life and taking care of my responsibilities?
Right. Stephen, that's an interesting one because it's all kind of stuff. It's like 30 30 30 method. It's pay yourself 25% first. It's all kind of stuff. I personally think that it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier in the show here, is that you got to understand where you are first. That's going to dictate what you can put where, and then also understand why you're putting something somewhere. So for instance, if I'm making $5,000 a month, but my expenses are $3,500 a month,
Mm-hmm.
I got 1,500 bucks left, roughly,
Right.
right?
Right.
Now, hopefully your job already has a 401k and everything set up and you're putting in at least to the matched amount.
Mm-hmm.
From a retirement standpoint, you already got something going there, you're getting the matching. But what is your goals? Is your goals to have liquid money in your hand because you want to, buy a property? You do need to buy a vehicle and you decide you want to pay cash for it. What does that look like? So it may be that kind of like the analogy or the story you was telling with your grandfather. Maybe you're only putting $15 up in my opinion, a high yield savings account instead of a regular savings account, right? That's a whole nother conversation or another piece of this. Um, Money going into that, right? And maybe you're putting other dollars somewhere else for the time being. Maybe that's to pay off debt so that you can have more disposable income going on. Some people may say differently. Some people might say, no, I should be putting 50 bucks up there and I'm going to use the snowball methodology and I'm going to do this. We got to look at your situation and you have to be open to the feedback that your financial professional is giving you or the trusted person. I mean, if that's you, Stephen, right? You got a lot of experience and done well for you and your family and stuff. So if somebody's coming to you and having a conversation, you got to be open to the feedback and say, hey, I understand that you like going to, don't kill me, ladies, going to Ulta and buying all the stuff, but hey, maybe we adjust that a little bit because you really need to pay the Ulta credit card off, or whatever that looks like. And hopefully you don't even have an Ulta credit card. That's a whole nother thing, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's a one size fit all. It really is a case by case basis, but I will agree you have to save or pay yourself first, or whatever. And retirement to me is not paying yourself first. So
What
some
is that?
people, and what I mean by that is, okay, so I'm putting in up whatever the matching is with my company. That's towards your future self. Paying yourself first to me is money that I'm able to have on hand if I need it liquid. If my car breaks down and I need to get something fixed and it's $500, I should be able to go get that money, pay the $500 to that mechanic, and I'm back on the road. Or for my AC breaks at home and I need to get that serviced and taken care of. Those are dollars that I'm using to pay me first that not only should help me be able to take care of emergency, but also help me be able to have a vacation that I plan for. And I know we talked earlier about maybe having different buckets and that, and savings is savings, but absolutely you can slice it up to vacations and
Right.
stuff like that. But
Yeah.
ideally, paying yourself first is allowing you to minimize the amount of debt that you may have to go into to take care of that emergency,
Yeah.
right? If paying yourself first allows you to know that you got the freedom to make a choice of, hey, Steven and Justin are going on this trip to this great wherever it is. It's for the weekend. Um, all my stuff is taken care of. I have this discretionary income. And you know what? I'm gonna go take this experience because we do want people to utilize their money to have experiences, not just the material. I got a new couch. I got a new this, like the experiences of life. And I didn't always do that well when I was young. I really didn't. But I learned.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an important point. I read a book years ago that kind of helped me understand um, the how to put money into buckets called
Hmm.
"The Richest Man in Babylon."
Ah, okay.
Have you ever read that
I
book?
have not read it, but I've heard about it. I should have read it by now, to be truthful.
So one of the reasons I recommend it to everybody I talk to about money is because it's about that thick.
Hmm.
It is
Hmm.
the tiniest book. It looks like a pamphlet, right?
Hmm.
It is a short book, and it's easy to read. It tells a story, an ancient story
Hmm.
about a man in Babylon who is in debt, right?
Hmm.
He doesn't have the Ulta credit card, but he's got some debts that he owes to people,
Hmm.
and it's a story of he goes to a very wealthy man and he learns how do I get mastery of money, right? How do I
Hmm.
become somebody like you? And so I think that's an important point, is the ability to go to somebody, and this is what you mentioned with
Hmm.
trusting somebody, right?
Yes.
You have to be able to go to somebody who knows the things that you don't know and be open to the information that they're sharing. Now, you don't have to take it, for face value of scripture, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to become your Bible, but you have to be able to learn from somebody like yourself who has the information available and can say, okay, this is a new way of seeing it, right? This is
Yes.
a new way, a way to be open, or a way that you can look at it. And so the thing that you don't know, and I always say the things that we don't know are invisible to us, right? They're absolutely invisible because as I was having my conversation last night,
Hmm.
I said, do you know what a stock is?
Ah.
And the answer was no. And that is a fair answer. That is,
Hmm.
I think, the answer that most people would have. You hear the word stock, and so if
Right.
I were to ask a normal person and say, "Hey, do you know what stock is?" They'd say, "Yeah," and I'd say, "Well, what is it?" And they wouldn't actually be able to understand it.
Right.
The same thing with an ETF or an index
Hmm.
fund, right? You've
Hmm.
heard the term, but you don't know what it is,
Right.
right? And if I said, "Do you know what an index fund is?" Most people would say, "Yeah," and then I say, "Okay, what's an index fund?" I don't know. And
Right.
then they look at me like, "What do you mean? You're going to ask me to explain it?"
Yeah.
Right? And so they don't have an understanding of these things. So you mentioned two types of savings account.
Hmm.
Can you break that apart a little bit? You said a high yield
So,
savings account and a regular savings account.
we all, I like to think all of us are pretty familiar with a regular savings account, right? That's when you go to your
You hope
bank and
so,
you're
right?
like, hey, I want to open a checking account. And they go, hey, what about a savings too? Sure, let's do it.
Right.
A lot of people, most people, that's what they have. And those give you a bit of a rate of return or compounding interest on it, but it's like less than 1%. So it takes forever for your money to make money. High yield savings account, usually with, I see them a lot of online, not necessarily at your local ones, which is fine. They're
Yeah.
usually offering you a, a rate of return on a compounded basis at right now, I think around 3.3. But once upon a time, it was high as 5%. And what that means is that your dollars are able to make money on a compounded rate monthly to at the end of the year, you may have gained an extra $500 or more, depending on what your savings amount is, that you didn't have to work for,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
personally rather have the ability to have my money in place where it can make money for me while I'm sleeping, I'm doing a show with you, or whatever that
Yeah.
is, so that my money is making money for me. Because that's what a lot of that's what a lot of the rich or more
Well,
educated in financial services
right.
or solutions, they're doing. They have their money in places that is making money for you. Do I think that a regular savings account is a absolutely terrible thing? Probably, yeah. Just
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But if you're starting out and you're just trying to learn the basic fundamentals, absolutely do it. But don't stop there.
Yeah.
Look for and ask questions like, well, hey, I've heard about these things, and I know most people have heard about high yield account on some type of platform by now. Well, what is that? Why is it so much better than that? I mean, I don't. I'm sure you've probably heard of it, Stephen, but like the rule of 72, right?
Right.
Rule of 72 works for you, and can work against you,
Right.
right? So if you take 72 and divide your interest rate on the high yield savings account for this example, and you divide in that, it tell you how many years it takes for your money to double. Well, if you flip that and you take that interest rate that you have on a credit card and divide it in 72, that shows you how quickly their money doubles off of us if you
Right.
don't pay that down. And those are the things that I teach to people as well. Most people never heard of the rule of 72. And I can tell you, in my teenage years, in my 20s, heck, honestly, even my 30s, I still hadn't heard of the rule of 72. And when I learned about it, I went like, that is like the simplest thing ever, but it was never taught in schools. It was
Yeah.
never brought up when I went to the bank. Nothing.
Never. Right. So
Never.
go through that one more time. I know you can rewind it and watch it, but simple in simplest form. Okay. What does a rule of 72 tell me?
Rule of 72 tells me how long it takes for my money to double. So, for
Okay.
instance, if I have a 8% rate of return on an
Okay.
account,
That's what
and I
we hear the
divide
S&P
that
will return, right? The S&P
right
returns about
in the
8% a year on
S&P
average.
or some other, however your portfolio is
Yep.
built, right? That's
Yep.
going to tell you how many years that your money will double
So I
based on
take a
that rate
thousand
of
dollars
return.
right now and I put it into the S&P 500. It has about,
Hmm.
we'll call it 8%. So I
Right.
take that 8% number, I divide it by 72, and
Hmm.
that's going to tell me how long it's going to take my money to go from
The
1,000 to
double.
2,000.
Right.
Okay.
As
And
simple
then
as that.
the credit card part, I think that's an important part too. Again, I take let's say my interest rate is 24%, right?
Right.
Which is, a lot of them are 29, right? But
Yeah. Some
4%,
of them,
right?
yes.
I don't have a relationship with a credit union that gives me
Hmm.
the 13, 14,
Right.
16%, right? Right? But I got the 24. So I take that 24, I divide it by 72, and what's that telling me?
That's telling you how fast their money is doubling from you. So basically, they're saying, hey, we're charging you a 24% interest rate or whatever that is. Our money, we're making double the money in 2, 3 years.
Hmm. It's
Now,
crazy.
that's absurd, right? The thing is, people are not being taught that. So
Hmm.
we go out here and we get credit cards, and we're not realizing that it's a tool. Credit card is a tool. But
Absolutely.
if you don't use the tool correctly for the right job,
Hmm.
right, what happens? Typically, the
Right.
job doesn't turn out that well for you as the
Right,
person.
right. It's like taking scissors are a tool, right? And I can take scissors and I can cut things with it. But if I use that tool to cut my grass, when the proper tool is a lawnmower, it's going to take me a lot longer.
That's a great. I think I'm about to steal that one, Steven. I think I'm gonna steal that one because it is. I mean, it's just that. I mean, you could have the lawn cut depending on the size of your lawn, maybe an hour. But if you're using the scissors, it's gonna be days, if not weeks,
Yeah,
right,
days
before
if you're
you to
fast,
go
right?
through that. And the person that used the lawnmower is off doing other things, they're enjoying life, and they're not even thinking about the lawn until the next time it need to be cut. And you still may be out there doing that. And so that's what the rule of 72 does, where it gives you the opportunity for your money to grow faster, which you
Yeah.
have depending on your rate of return. And
Hmm.
then on the credit side, it makes the opportunity for them to make more money off of you
Hmm.
faster. So the more
Yeah.
you have on that credit card, the higher
Yeah.
that interest rate is, the more they're making off of you.
Hmm.
Yep.
So that's the idea that you brought up is having, and Robert Kiyosaki talks about this, the difference
Hmm.
between the rich and the poor, the rich dad, poor dad idea is that the poor mentality, the poor thinking says, I go out and I work for money.
Hmm.
And the rich mentality, and this is I'm just simplifying the ideas here. It's worth reading his book, right?
Hmm.
The rich mentality says, I put money to work for me.
Right.
Right? And so you think of your little dollar bills going to work and then
Hmm.
coming home, they're earning money and they're bringing that money back home to you.
Right.
The
Absolutely. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's what the credit card companies are doing.
Yep.
They're taking their dollars, giving them to you to buy something that you think you want right
Hmm.
now, and then their dollars are coming back to them. If you don't pay off the full balance of that credit card, their dollars are coming back to them with more dollars.
Absolutely.
That's why they're willing to give you their money,
Yep.
because really they're taking yours. Now you've
Yep.
agreed to do it. It's not robbery,
Right.
right?
No, it's
I
not, it's
hear
not
that a
robbery.
lot.
You
I
agreed
hear,
to do
oh,
it.
it's theft. It's that's not theft. Well, depending on how you fall, taxation is theft, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Borrowing with an agreement in place isn't robbery, right? Now, you can debate whether or not it's right or wrong. Fine, have that conversation all day, but you've agreed to borrow, to use their money, and the benefit to them is that they're going to get it back with interest. That's literally what you've
That's
agreed to.
literally it. That's
Yeah,
literally it. One of the other things that I've been trying to talk to people about too, that kind of earlier and along with this, we talk about compound interest, and that's what we talk about with the rule of 72, right? It's really about getting the compounded rate of return, if it's for us or for them. But I know when I've asked people before, like, do you know what compounded interest is? Do you know how to get compounded interest? And
Einstein
usually,
says that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world.
yes, it
Yeah,
is a
so tell us
it is
about
a
it.
beautiful, remarkable thing. So I
Yeah.
agree, it's definitely a wonder of the world. But I asked them like, do you know where to get it? And most times they tell me, oh, in my retirement, my rate of return is 20%, 30%, or 15, whatever that is. I go like, wow, that's fantastic. But do you know your true rate of return?
Mm.
And they'll go like, yeah, I saw it in my account. And I go, remember this, when you look at those retirement accounts, it never says compounding interest.
Mm-hmm.
It just says compounding. So the money that you contribute to that on a regular basis is actually in that value.
Mm-hmm.
True compounding interest is I didn't add anything to it. I can, but I didn't add anything to it. And over this period of time, it was in this amount of days, this many months, over a year, that money grew to be this, and I didn't add a dime. And then guess what? That money that you still didn't touch kept growing. That's true compounding interest. And most people hear compounding, and psychologically, we add the interest when we think about our like 401ks and stuff like this. So I thought I'd throw that in because I was one of those people too. I said, oh, I'm getting compound interest in my retirement. Nah, not really. The
Right.
big rate of return sometimes because I was putting in a large amount of money
Yeah.
every pay period.
Right. Right. And people don't understand. They don't understand things like compounding interest, compounding
Hmm.
versus um, the idea of doubling. Let me phrase it this way: the biggest difference, or the hardest hurdle to overcome, is 0 to 1.
Hmm.
Okay, so what that means is, let's say I'm trying to grow an audience of people who
Hmm.
hear this podcast. Right, it's a great
Right.
example. The biggest hurdle to overcome is 0 to 1. Right, is getting off the ground first. Right, or putting money away into an account, a savings account, a high yield savings account, or an investment account.
Hmm.
0 to 1, the first dollar.
Yep.
Right, because then as you start to build over time, the compounding effect comes into play. And so if I put $100 aside right now, and I do that every month for the next 10 months, I'll be at $1,000. Right now, if I stop and I just let that money earn interest, forget
Hmm.
forget the rate of return. We'll keep this simple for people.
Right.
If I can double my money, do you know how fast, or how many doubling events? And this is, I think Patrick Bet David is where I first heard this, right? PPD. Do you know how many doubling events it takes to get to 1 million?
It depends, right? Depends on that rate of return.
Yeah, yeah. Forget the
Yeah.
rate of return.
Hmm.
If I
Yep.
just double it, right?
Hmm.
Just say times 2. Do you know how many times it takes? It's only 10. It is only 10 times of doubling $1,000 to get to 1 million. Okay. From $1,000, you get 2,000,
Hmm.
right? 2,000, you get 4,000,
Right.
you get 8,000, you get 16, right? When you get to the 10th time, it's going to be 1 million. Now, here's the thing, and this is the for those who go a little higher level, want
Hmm.
to get a little bit deeper on it. Once you're at 1 million, do you know how many times it takes to make the next million?
Oh,
Right, it
yeah.
doubles one time, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it feels like, oh my god, this is taking forever. This is never going to move anywhere. It's not doing anything. Well, 1,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 4,000, 4,000 to 8,000. Okay, so a few doubling events and you're at 8,000. But a couple more down the line, let's say you get to the 56,000 mark. You made 56,000 on the next doubling, right?
Hmm.
You're over 100,000, right? So as the numbers get bigger, we see it making sense. But in the
Right.
beginning, it's really hard to look and say, okay, man, I put $100 away and that's all I have,
Right.
right? At a decent rate of return. What, I made $8, right? $80, right? Why would I even do that? Why not just go buy the Doritos at the grocery store?
And I can't say when I was younger, I didn't have that same kind of thought a little bit because it was about instant gratification, and that's what you're talking about. Like we're such in a society of instant gratification that the patient of growth is sometimes is lost on many, and that's what we're trying to do with platforms like this, trying to get people to think about that differently. I mean, now, right, and for many years now, I look at it and go, wait a minute, man, I put that $100 in there and I got $80 and I didn't have to do anything additional for that.
Yeah.
That's great. And
Right.
then I get people to do this sometime too. I go like, hey, what was your, how much did you get in your, we'll just say your high yield savings just to keep it simple. How much did you get for the year? Oh, I saved extra amount of dollars. I made $500 for the year. I go like, wow, how much do you make per hour?
That's a good way of looking at it.
How much do you make per hour? They do the math. I go like, wow, it took you over 8 hours to make what that made
Right.
automatically.
Just
You
by
know,
sitting.
I think that when we can have those level of conversation with people and put them in some of those little practical ways of thinking, I think it allows them to connect psychologically to it differently.
Yeah.
It gives them the opportunity to go, well, wait a minute, man, I had to work 8 hours to make what that made?
Right.
Like, wow. Or even the better part is you go like, I made more with that than I make per hour.
Yeah. Right. That's it.
You
That's
know,
the way to look at it. Right.
it's those little things that helps us adjust our way of thinking that allows us to be better stewards of what we're trying to do for our financial future, especially
Yeah, and
when
I
you're
think
trying to
that's
leave
the
a
most
legacy.
important part. Yeah, the important part is you're being a steward. You're being a steward of your financial life, quite literally.
Yes.
So, is there anything else before we wrap up? Is there anything else that you and I want you to send me your contact information
Okay.
so that people can get in touch with you, people can talk to you who need more guidance or have questions about
hmm
this stuff. But is there anything else that you want to make sure that we share before we wrap this up today?
I want people to understand that it is no shame at where you are.
Mm-hmm. Oh
I
man,
can,
that's yeah.
I have the organization I'm with. We have a series of books called How Money Works, and we have them for one for women, one for the next generation. I was thinking about your daughter. I make sure to get a book to you,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Stephen, and for a friend if need be as well. But I want people to understand that don't worry about I didn't do so well. I didn't understand credit. Oh, only if I had done this. That's not what is important. What is important is that you have awareness now and you're choosing to do something different. Absolutely. If you're comfortable reaching out to me once my Stephen has my information, you sure can.
Yeah,
But I want you to reach out with who you feel comfortable with, who you feel has your best interests in mind. If you don't have a conversation with somebody, then you typically stay in the same place and then you get stressed out, you start spinning your wheels, and then sometimes we just throw our hands up. I don't want anybody to throw their hands up. I don't want any community to feel like they can't get the help that they deserve. And
yeah,
it's not your fault that you didn't get it while you were younger, but you do owe it to yourself to do something different about it. And with platforms like this and all of the other platforms out there, it's people that are out there trying to get the information, and you just got to find a person you trust. I think Steve and I are good people, right? And we'll do what we can to help anybody.
yeah.
But you got to be willing to seek the help and ask for it and not be so bullish if it's not the words that you want to hear.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's man. I'm glad you said that. Right. I think that shame around our understanding. I think the thing that we cling to so often in life is that if I say this, I'm gonna sound stupid.
Hmm.
Right. I was with my. I'm blessed in the brother that introduced us. Right. The way that
Yeah,
we came together. My brother
good
who
dude.
lives
That's a
in
good
Dallas.
dude.
Yeah, Daniel is probably. Um, so I have seven siblings, and there's no such thing as favorites, but there are,
Yeah.
right? No, there's no such thing as favorites. But what I always say about my
Disclaimer,
family,
everybody. Hear that disclaimer?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Forgive me, please. Um, of the eight of us, Daniel's the best of us, right?
Yeah.
And my some of my siblings might disagree, right?
Uh,
I look at all of us and I say, okay, Daniel's gotten a lot right. And not to say he gets things wrong or he doesn't get things wrong, but Daniel's gotten a lot right, and he's a good dude, right? He's a
Yes,
a
he's a good
really
dude.
good guy, and I love spending time with him. And he has my niece and nephew. I get to see them a lot, and as I was spending time with them recently, I heard my nephew say to my sister-in-law, his mom, that
Hmm.
he something about him. He felt stupid, right?
Mm.
And I heard my niece another time say something about she felt stupid, right? And in hearing those things, and it didn't weigh on me, but stayed with me
Hmm.
because that is such a universal feeling for so many people when it comes to asking questions about things we don't know about. And money is such a, you hear people say that money's the root of all evil when the quote is actually for the love of money, right?
Hmm.
Is the root of all evil. I think that the lack of understanding around money is a major source of anxiety and shame and fear for so many
Hmm.
people. And so I wish that we could abolish this fear around asking questions, right? And it doesn't even have to be just about money, but that's what we're talking about today. But
Hmm.
when you have a hole in your understanding, if you have the question, somebody else has the question.
Hmm.
They're just too afraid to ask it. So you can
Right.
ask it in a private setting. You can reach out to yourself or to myself.
Hmm.
You can reach out to somebody and say, okay, this is a thing that I don't understand. And here's the great news. If you're talking to somebody like myself, or I trust like you,
Hmm.
if I don't know something, I have developed a lack of ego around saying, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Right. And I've become very comfortable saying, I don't know. But these are the people who would know that answer.
Mm.
These are the resources, right? That's why I point to books all the time, right? I did
Hmm.
it today quite a bit. David Ramsey, or Dave Ramsey goes by, right? Dave Ramsey, two of his books up here, Total Money Makeover and Financial Peace University. Those are sitting
Hmm.
up there. Robert Kiyosaki, I've got a handful. Uh, Tony Robbins has some great books on money, right? So there are resources out there. So
Hmm.
if you have questions and you reach out to somebody and they seem to know everything, be careful, right? But if they're willing to say, I don't know, and point you to a resource, it's worth asking the question. It's worth feeling stupid for a moment, right? If the person you talk to makes you feel stupid, I would say run the other direction. Now, if they make you feel stupid because of something inside your own head, that's on you.
Yeah. Right.
But if they treat you like you're stupid for asking a question, you're talking to the wrong person, right? One of my favorite quotes is, "The fool is the precursor to the savior, for a fool who
Mm.
persists in his own folly will become wise." That means is if you're willing to persist, if you're willing to ask the questions and you're willing to learn, there are resources out there like yourself, like your company,
Hmm.
uh, anybody out there who's willing to help you can help you if you're willing to be open to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is this is a great conversation with you, Stephen. I really
Yeah, I really
appreciate
enjoyed
you
this.
bringing me on as a guest, man. And I hope that people take this, what you're putting out there in the universe, and understand that it's really good people, men and women out here that's trying to do the right things.
Yeah,
When I think about some of the mistakes that I even made financially years ago, it was because I didn't have the education. I didn't know who to turn to. You did Platforms like this didn't even exist. And
right.
you had books, and books are fantastic, powerful tools. But sometimes you need somebody to say, can you help me understand this
Yeah,
part, this
yeah,
section of the book? What are they really saying?" And I also think that if you're asking somebody a question along the lines, you say, if they're not willing to meet you where you are, education wise, awareness, whatever that is, then that's probably, I agree with you, probably not the person that you should continue to try to work with.
yeah.
Um, you do have to be open to also doing the things that they're recommending to you. You can't, you know, you have to have action in order to have something change,
You
right?
mean
And
I
if
have
you're
to
not
do
willing to
something with
take
the
action,
information?
right? If you're not going to apply the information, then you can't get mad at the financial educator or financial professional that's trying to help you when none of the stuff that they recommended that you look to do differently, you're not doing it. You're choosing to stay on the path that you're already on, and we've already maybe established that that path is probably not going to get you to where you want to be. And so we have to be that way. So I just wanted to make sure I threw
Yeah,
that
that's
part in
great.
there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Justin, I've really enjoyed this. I'd love to have you on again in the future.
Hey,
Hopefully,
man,
hopefully,
absolutely.
my prayer is that people will see this or hear this and recognize themselves in some portion of it and grow. That they'll reach out if that's what they're called to do, or they'll at least go find a resource and, like you said, eliminate some of that illiteracy around the financial world that I feel like is so prominent right now.
Man, it is. And, our biggest thing is we say how money works. It wasn't taught in school. Great organization I'm with, WealthWave,
Hmm.
and they're doing some great things nationwide. And I'll make sure to get information to you, Stephen, so you can add it
Yeah,
here
please
and
do.
people can feel
If
free to
somebody
reach out.
wants to reach out to you, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Man, one, you can go to my Insta. That's probably the easiest, as
Yeah,
learn
social
underscore
media.
HMWS, for learn how money works.
Say it
You can
again.
reach out to me. It's learn underscore HMWS on Instagram. You can feel free to DM me there. I'll get the additional information to you
Yeah,
as
great.
far as my web address. That's a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'll put
But
that into the YouTube video and into the comments on if you're on Spotify. I'll put it on Spotify. I think Apple Podcasts. That's where you can find this, and
yeah,
so I'll
okay,
make sure that we get that information out there to everybody.
man, look
Thank you
forward
again,
to it.
Justin.
Hey, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we do this again.
Yeah,
Have a great
absolutely.
one.
You too.